This is the Uptick Newswire Stock Day podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com and Equities.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube to stay up to date on penny stock news and interviews, public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world. With your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, I'm bringing back a returning guest, and he was on my show back in August, and I'll tell you what, I'm super excited to have this company back on my show because I think they're at the top of the food chain for M&A. We're talking no other than Marathon Gold Corp. Take a look at them. They're on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol MGDPF. Market cap around 98 million. Stock price around 63 cents United States money. And with us today is the CEO and president of the company, going to bring us up to speed, Mr. Phillip Walford. Phillip, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be talking to you again.
I noticed that you brought in a new team member. I just want to know if you would bring us up to speed on Mr. James Powell.
James Powell is a mining engineer, but he's also has extensive background in permitting, environmental permitting, and he's the new member of our team. And his function is to lay out our roadmap for permitting the deposit and getting it into production. So that's something that's very important at this stage of our development. When I last talked to you in August, we were just working on a new preliminary economic assessment, which just came out, and I guess we can dwell on that a little bit. But what I wanted to point out is that we actually added about 800,000 ounces of gold to our resources last year in between and we have a lot of upside on this property, and people are starting to see that now. So we've had a lot of company geologists come and look at the property, and they've all been impressed. So it's going to be an interesting year.
Well, let's talk about last year. Were you happy with the results, and where do we go from there?
Well, what the results showed us is that we have a project that contained, we have 4 million ounces of gold in measured, indicated, and inferred at a reasonably good grade for open pit of close to 2 grams. When we did our economic analysis, not all of those resource ounces made it into the different pits, but most of them did. And we came out with a production profile of 225,000 ounces a year for 12 years. Usually a deposit that is going to produce 100,000 ounces a year is good, but when you get up into the 200, 300 range, you're really looking at a major deposit, and you're looking at a major production scenario. So that's where we're at now. And from the work that we have done, we know that the potential to increase that is high. And that's part of the focus for next year, for this year. But also, we are entering into what's called a preliminary feasibility study. That's the next step in an economic study and far more detailed than the preliminary economic assessment. We do have about 750,000 ounces of resource in the pits that we've designed pits that we have to convert into measured and indicated. So part of our drilling program this year is to do that. But we also have a lot of exploration potential near surface, which we're also going to go after. So we're looking at a pretty darn busy year.
You know, that being said, one, I want to know for the plans for 2019, the first quarter and second quarter. But most junior exploring companies, as yourself, they usually sell out the project to a major. What is your guys' game plan?
Well, it really is. It's really to maximize shareholder value. If we have a good mining company that approaches us and wants to pay a premium. A good premium for our stock, then we have a fiduciary duty to look at it, and whether we actually go into production or whether were taken out before that happens, I think we're all the company is open to that happening. We just want to leave with a smile on our face, and we want our shareholders to have a smile on their face.
And what is fair price, you think? Your personal opinion?
My personal opinion, it's over $2, because if you look at when we did our preliminary economic assessment, we come up with a value of after tax of $493 million US, and we have about 150 million shares, so you can do the division.
Yes.
And we do have some large shareholders that feel the same way.
My guest that we're highlighting here on Stock Day is Marathon Gold Corp. Take a look at them. They're on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol MGDPF. I think they're, like I said, at the top of the food chain of M&A discovery. Their market cap's only $98 million, very undervalued at their current price. Phillip, let me ask you this. Path to production. Are you leaning more towards that way, or what's your feelings about that?
Well, as I said, I've been in the business for decades, and I've been on the mining end, and it's always we always have to advance the project. And if we go into, we actually have people that we've talked to that are willing, or we're considering putting money into it and all that, into our project, into capitalizing the mine. That's our course that we're following. What if another large mining company wants to acquire us? That's their call. We can't predict that. The only thing we can do properly is to continue to de-risk the company, make it more valuable, and move towards production ourselves. So I would say, like, add to that too, that we're facing, having worked for large companies in the past in senior positions, I know some of them don't have much. Some of them are a little short on their pipelines of projects, and we represent a project in North America in a good jurisdiction that's very robust production and robust economics, and we will see what happens.
My guest today is Phillip Walford. He is the CEO and president of Marathon Gold Corp. The flagship property that we've been discussing here for the last 8 minutes is the Valentine Lake Gold project in Newfoundland. What would you like my listeners to take away from this interview before I let you go?
I think they should have a look at us if they're interested in gold and they're interested in an undervalued property that has the potential to have a very good return with a good gold market, such as the one we're seeing now, a very good return in the next year.
I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. If you want to know more about their company, go to marathon-gold.com. That is their website. Again, you can find them on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol MGDPF. Phillip, thank you for stopping by on the show. I wish you nothing but continued success. Hopefully you'll come back on the show in 40 or 50 days. Give us an update.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate this. This is great.
This program is entirely sponsored and produced by Uptick Newswire, LLC, which is responsible for the content. The opinions and information provided on this program are those of the guests and those of the respective companies they represent, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Uptick Newswire. Uptick Newswire encourages all listeners of this program to do their due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that will work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional. The guests of this program may have paid for its distribution and are not directly affiliated with Uptick Newswire or this station.